What's up, YouTube? I'm the BowTie Fragrance Guy. On this channel, we primarily talk about fragrances, of course. Listen to the name, BowTie Fragrance Guy. But I also like to throw in some style and grooming tips as well. So if you love looking good and smelling great, you found the right channel. Hit subscribe, man. Don't forget to enable notifications by hitting the bell icon as well. So anytime a new video gets uploaded on YouTube, you'll get notified. On today's video, guys, I'm going to be jumping into talking about the latest release from Frederic Malle from the Desert Gems collection. I'm talking about a fragrance with one of the best names I've ever heard, Hope. Yes, Hope is the 5th installment to the Desert Gem collection from Frederic Malle and was done by one of my favorite master perfumers of all time, Dominique Ropion. All right, so we're going to be jumping into giving a kind of breakdown on this fragrance. I want to give you guys my thoughts on it, which I feel like, based on the things that I've seen, may be somewhat of an unpopular opinion, but it's my true thoughts, and I want to talk to you guys about this fragrance. So if you want to hear my thoughts on Hope from Frederic Malle, you know the routine. Keep it locked right here. Let's get it.
The BowTie Fragrance Guy.
All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's jump right into this video. Really quickly, of course, if you haven't gotten my ebook yet, The Gentleman's Blueprint, make sure you do that, man. I always have it linked down below. The Gentleman's Blueprint is just that, a blueprint on being a modern gentleman in today's society, which I think something like this is very, very, very much needed, especially even for younger guys, man. I know what we see today, a lot of times the representation is not what I saw growing up. So I think it's important to have something out there and put something out there that can encourage and give some hope. Let's see how I tie that in. Can give some hope to especially this younger generation above, reminding them what it is and what it takes to be a real, true gentleman in today's society. So if you don't have it, $9.99, support the channel, support me. Click the link down below and get your copy of The Gentleman's Blueprint. Now, to get to this fragrance, Hope, as I said earlier, is the 5th installment of the Desert Gems collection from Frederic Malle, which, of course, is a heavily Middle Eastern influenced line. Now, of course, when you think Middle Eastern, you think oud, you think incense, you think spices and the whole nine. And this particular collection is one that I have really come to enjoy. Now, I don't have the dawn and I don't have the night, but I do have 3 fragrances from that collection. We have Promise, and I'm not even going to try to debate about which one is my favorite because I really don't know. I love the 3 that I have. I have Promise, and of course we have the super popular The Moon, which was done by Julian Rasquinet, which this is an amazing fragrance. This and Promise, both amazing. Promise is a fragrance that is focused on cypriol, a beautiful note of apple. And they say there's no oud in there, but that's up for debate. They said that Dominique Ropion did use cypriol, nargamota, and some other things to kind of create the essence of oud in the fragrance, but it seemed like some oud there. But that's Promise. And then, of course, we have The Moon, which is just a fantastic fragrance, again, by Julian Rasquinet, which is a very fruity oud experience. You have lychee, blueberry, and raspberry up top to give this very fruity and sweet experience up top, and then it goes into the rose oud, a little bit of an ambery kind of touch on it as well. Just an amazing fragrance from the Desert Gems collection. Now, the night and the dawn, I have heard, I am going to sample them, but I heard that those are the most animalic fragrances from this collection as far as the oud is concerned. That's not my thing. I have no problem saying that. I mean, to each his own. I'm not into the heavily animalic oud fragrances. So that's not seemingly my thing, but I do want to sample them because now I will tell you this: if you just listen to other people, then sometimes you miss out on a gem. Get it? There, I tied it in again. Desert Gem. Yeah, you miss out on a gem because Hope, to me, is a gem. And I said in my opinion, it's probably a little bit of an unpopular opinion because a lot of the commentary that I've seen on this fragrance, I would say has been 60 to 65% not positive, you know, and 40 to 35% positive. Most people have not really found this to be a fragrance that they feel like was worth adding to the collection. So I beg to differ. Now, one of the things that I did hear about this fragrance that I did agree with, it does somewhat put you in the mindset of promise until you wear them side by side. I'm wearing promise on this hand and I'm wearing hope on this hand. And when you wear them side by side, you are really able to pick up the very distinct differences between these fragrances. So Hope, again, done by Dominique Ropion. This is the presentation. And on the back, it gives a little bit of a, you know, tidbit on the fragrance. And there's a picture of Mr. Ropion there on the back. The sleeve slides off. And this is the presentation for the fragrance. When you open the box, the fragrance rests here securely in the box. So not much, of course, to write home about the presentation, but this isn't about the presentation, it's about the bottle. And here is Hope from Frederic Malle. So, of course, the bottles here are very, very similar. The bottle, some of the main notes in this particular fragrance is juniper, pink pepper, oud, incense, vetiver, and leather. I think that's pretty much all the notes, at least the listed notes in this fragrance. So, again, I will say the overall essence of this fragrance, once it starts to dry down, it is going to put you somewhat in the mindset of promise. Okay? So there is a similarity there. If you look at the note breakdown on the two fragrances, it's almost inevitable. A lot of times when there is oud or the illusion of oud in a fragrance, that alone a lot of times is going to, in some way, shape, or form, a lot of times remind people of another fragrance because oud is a very, very polarizing note. I mean, if oud is in a fragrance, you're going to know that oud is in a fragrance most of the time. So that's why sometimes it's really easy to detect if a fragrance lists oud as a note. If you don't pick it up at all, it's really hard to believe there's any oud in a fragrance with oud as a listed note if you don't smell it because it is a very, very polarizing note. Most ouds, especially more Middle Eastern ouds, are very skanky, very animalic notes. But of course, we have a little bit more of a westernized oud now that you find in a lot of fragrances that is not as skanky, but a little bit more wearable. Now, in this particular fragrance, Hope, it does open up with a very, well, not very, but it is a very skanky presence of oud for the first 5 minutes or so. Wearing these fragrances side by side, the initial blast of Hope is so different from Promise. With Promise, you get a very fruity experience. It's a very fruity experience that you smell the apple, which is very prominent. So it's sweet and fruity. You get this kind of smell, this presence of oud, which of course they're saying is the Cypriol. We'll go with that. Which gives this dark woody experience that is kind of similar to oud, if you will. But it's just a whole different experience on the opening of this fragrance. This is a lot sweeter fragrance. Now, I'm not trying to say which fragrance I like more because I need more time with Hope, but I love Promise. I absolutely love Promise and I love the Moon. I'm just trying to highlight the differences between the two fragrances. So this Promise, again, is sweet, fruity apple, a little bit smoky oud, presence of oud in the opening, whereas this Hope is actually very smoky, leathery incense. That first experience is very smoky, leathery incense. And like I said, the first 5 minutes, you get a very strong presence of oud, a slightly skanky oud in the opening, but again, it does dissipate after about the first 5 minutes. At that 5-minute mark, you start to get a little bit more of that pink pepper that just gives a little bit of freshness. So it kind of almost like it interrupts the oud and it starts to provide a little bit of a freshness to the fragrance in that first 10 minutes of your wearing experience. Now, at about the 10-minute mark, I start to also pick up on that juniper note. And a juniper note here really provides almost this piney, coniferous, almost kind of like experience. So, have you ever been outdoors, fresh air, maybe walking through, I don't want to call it a forest because I don't know if how many people have been in a forest, but you've been around those trees that have pine needles. It's almost like that smell of like fresh air and those pine needles that you would find on a tree that has pine needles. You kind of get that experience there about 10 minutes into the fragrance, which again kind of breaks up the monotony of that smoky, incensey oud opening that you initially get um, with Hope in that first 10 minutes. Now, one of the things that another big difference about this fragrance is the projection of them. Now, Promise, the Moon, very huge projectors. This isn't really a huge projector. It's a little bit more of an intimate wearing experience, but it is there. People that get within, that arm's length of you is going to pick this fragrance up, especially if you like me and you apply on clothing. So it's not as boisterous as Promise and the Moon, but it is very, very present. You can pick this fragrance up when you wear it. Like I said, especially if you're going to spray your clothing, like a lot of times I spray my clothing. Now, at about that 10-minute mark, that's when it does start to uh, remind you more of Promise. You have notes in here like the pink pepper note. That's a note that you're going to find in Promise. You actually have castoreum in Promise as well, which castoreum is almost like an animalic leather type of experience. So it kind of smells like leather, but more, more in your face, almost petrol sometimes, castoreum. And you kind of get that experience with Hope, but you also have what I feel in Hope is a note of cypriol. Now, they don't list cypriol as a note, but the cypriol experience that I have in Promise, I kind of experience some of that in Hope as well. But I think that is what kind of ties these two fragrances together in the heart of the fragrance. It is going to have some similarities, but they are not the same. It will remind you of Promise, but it is definitely not the same. As it dries all the way down, I think that may be my favorite part of the fragrance because you still have this kind of smoky, leathery presence here in the fragrance, but it also becomes more ambery. More ambery, and you guys know that amber is one of my favorite notes in perfumery. So the far dry down, you get kind of a little bit of a smoky, leathery nuance here with more of a heavy presence, of amber on the far dry down. And I love the dry down. The fragrance is very complex, so it does change as you can kind of see I highlighted the changes, how this fragrance kind of goes from this really heavily kind of skanky oud incense leather experience in the opening to it kind of transitions to the whole, resemblance of Promise DNA to a leathery, slightly smoky, but more ambery dry down. And I absolutely love it. The fragrance retails for $1,140. I actually bought my fragrance full retail from Neiman Marcus because, again, people pay for what they want at the end of the day, and I felt like it was worth it for me to add to my collection because I was just so intrigued by the note breakdown. And I'm not, like I said, I told you guys before last week I did a video about my top 10 oud fragrances. I'm not, like, guys, into the animalic oud fragrances, but I've been getting a little bit more into these darker oud and ambery fragrances here as of late because I'm finding them to be, of course, more creative, more inspiring, if you will, for me personally. So this is one that I definitely wanted to add to my collection. And for me, I'm not upset that I did. Now, everybody is different. Maybe this will hit discounters. I don't know. I know I've seen Promise on discounters. I've seen it on Fragrance Net for about, $280, which I think is a steal for that. I can't recall seeing the Moon on many discount sites, and I don't know about the Dawn, and I haven't really looked for them, although I'm going to get samples of those. But you can wait for it, man. Get a sample, see if it's something that you like. But for me personally, I am very, very happy that I added this to my collection. Now, as it comes to performance, again, the projection on this is moderate. It is not a huge projector. It is moderate, but it does last for a long time on my skin. I got 8.5 hours of overall longevity. At the 8.5 hour mark, I could still really press my nose into my hand and still pick it up, but I kind of stopped counting the longevity when I have to go all the way here to pick it up. But it's a little bit more intimate, but again, not a problem for me. I like it. I actually wore this fragrance to work. Generally speaking, I wouldn't call this a work fragrance, but I was able to wear it to work because it's not huge in your face. You know, by the time I get to work, that the kind of really animalic, quote unquote, part of this fragrance experience is over. And I'm really enjoying that kind of resemblance to promise, and then that nice, gentlemanly, ambery dry down is how I would describe it. And this fragrance just works for me. But those are my thoughts on Hope from Frederic Malle's Desert Gem collection. Have you had a chance to try this fragrance? If you have, what are your thoughts? I would love to hear from you down in the comment section. Now, as always, I sincerely appreciate you guys' time and your attention to these videos. You don't have to watch, but you do, and I sincerely appreciate that. Now, don't forget to take a few moments to like, comment, and subscribe. Please make sure you're sharing these out to some other folks that you think could use the information or find it entertaining. Because I'm your guy, Derek. I'm the BowTie fragrance guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell fantastic. So until next time, keep looking good, keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.